Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Faithwalk 101. We are so glad that you could join us. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about how we can get rid of this hurt, these negative things that's happening inside of our lives. You know, a lot of people, they're angry and they're mad, and they say that the reason why they are angry and mad is because of other people. They're saying other people are bad, and that's why they're mad. And so if they could only see life from their point of view, they wouldn't have to talk about them and slander them too. That's what they're doing. They say that they just can't let things go, and I believe that because people today cannot let things go. Let it go. Let it go. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this lesson. Letting things go, because this is what Paul talks about. Because if we don't let these things go, they build up inside of us, and it becomes like an explosion of dynamite when it's finally released. And Paul is telling us that we've got to let things go. And this is what he says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31 and 32. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, and slander, along with every form of malice. And then he tells us what we need to do in verse 32. Be kind and compassionate, my friends, to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ forgave you. Paul is encouraging us, believers, to let go of this negative. But some people, it's just hard for them to do. They just can't let it go. Why? Why can't they let it go? Well, I believe that it is a deep-rooted fear that's causing some people to be negative about almost everything. And so what are these fears that people are having? Insecurities, bad experiences. A lot of people are just very insecure, and this, I think, has to do with background. Bad experiences. When we have some bad experiences, we kind of attach them to our life's view. These life events that happens to us. Excessive stress. If you live under excessive stress, my friends, there's only a matter of time before the lid blows off. And so we have to learn how to deal with that. And a lot of this stress, I really believe the root cause is fear. And some people are always the victim. It's always someone else's fault. You know what? If everybody could see life from my point of view, I wouldn't have to talk about them, right? I wouldn't have to slander their name too. So some people, they're just the victim, my friends, but we have to examine our lives. Unable to control life. And that's a lot of people's problems, trying to control everything. But we can't. Definitely can't control other people, even as much as we would like to, as we complain about them and we think we can shame them into doing right. We cannot control them. There are many different issues that people have, but Jesus Christ is aware of all of them. Yes, he is. He knows our problems. He knows our hearts. He walked this earth as a man. There was nothing that we're dealing with that he didn't deal with, and he lived a perfect life. That's right. Well, how do we do that? Well, Paul tells us in Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. First, we got to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. We got to give it all, my friends, everything. Don't hold back on anything. And then he says, don't be conformed to the pattern of this world. The world does not have an answer. They address the symptoms, but the root problem is sin. I don't care. We put a spin on it. We give it a different, call it a different word, but it's sin, my friend. And the Bible tells us everybody, no one is exempt, has sin. We've all been born into sin. So sin is the root of the problem. But Jesus Christ is the answer, and he is aware of it. So what are some of the things that people do that are negative that you're going to notice about them? First, they always talk bad about other people. Always. These are negative people. And someone who talks bad about other people all the time, there's something going on inside of them. And there's some insecurities, life experiences, excessive stress, fear, all these different things are happening. But surely that you could say something good about someone. But to say, just constantly say something negative about everybody, there's something going on in your life. And I always say that, let's give credit where credit's due. There could be someone you don't like, you never have liked them, but they do something that's good. Let's just say, it's okay. They did something good, even though you don't like them, even though you think they're a bad person. But if they did something good, call it what it is. But some people don't have anything good to say about anyone. Negative people complain all the time. Surely, my friends, there's something that's good that you can say. And you know what? Negative people don't want to hear another point of view. Don't want to hear it. They've dug in, my friends, and if everyone could only see life from their point of view, they wouldn't have to talk about you. That's right. They wouldn't have to slander you. They can't see other people's view. They only see how they feel because they're the victim. And that's what they do. They play the victim. And they don't respect good intentions. They don't, because they're negative. So if someone is your boss that you don't like, but they're doing things, good intentions for the staff, for the employees, my friends, people who are negative, they still don't like that. You could give them $1 million and they would still complain. This is really sad. Well, what's the answer? Well, Paul says we've got to get rid of all bitterness. This is in Ephesians. I want to read it one more time. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31 and 32. Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. This is what's eating you up inside, my friends. You've got to get rid of it. Well, how do we get rid of it? We accept our Lord Jesus Christ. We present our bodies as a living sacrifice. We're no longer conformed to the pattern of this world. Our minds are being transformed by the reading of this word. So as I read this word, my mind is being transformed because I'm accepting it. I believe it. And then he goes on and he says, now that you have accepted it, now that you're walking by faith, now that Jesus Christ, the Spirit of God, is moving in your life, here's what you're going to do. In verse 32, be kind and compassionate to one another. Do we see that today? Well, we want to start with ourselves. Regardless of what's happening in the world, we want to be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ forgave you. Paul is encouraging us to let go of the negative. That's right, my friends. I know it's hard for some people, and that's why walking by faith is an exercise that we have to do every day. Because you know what Paul says? He says the things that I want to do, I don't do them. And the things that I don't want to do, I have a tendency to do them. But thanks be to God, my friends, who loves us and knows who we are, with the power of the Spirit that lives in us, the counselor that guides and leads us. As long as we continue to exercise our faith, hold on to the doctrine, and trust what our Lord Jesus Christ is saying. Solomon said, trust in the Lord, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. Continue to join us on Faithwalk 101, my friends, as we talk more about these things. Thank you, my friends.